Hey, don't forget about baseball now that football is in full swing. Honestly, some people might argue this is the best time to be betting baseball. Well, we're going to let you know what you should be betting on this evening on the card in Major League Baseball. I'm Dan Alexander, and joining me, we got a great crew to kick off the week. Is this a crossover episode, guys? It's like the Hustle crossover edition. I got Bryan Power, Drew Martin, Adam Trigger here, ready to rock on a loaded MLB slate. And guys, I say we get right into it. We'll start off with BP and talk Orioles and Astros. It's funny because Houston now comes into this game after losing 4 out of 6 of this whole easy part of their schedule. They got to face the Royals, they got to face the A's, and they only came out with 2 wins out of that one. So sure, they come in licking their wounds, but I'm wondering, how are you going to be betting this one, Brian?
Well, we talk about all the time. Baltimore, not just the most profitable team in baseball the last 2 years, most profitable team in all sports. Okay, number one in net units last season, number one in net units this season. But they too, you mentioned the Astros' disappointing results of late. Well, the Orioles, also a bit of a rare slump. They had a season-high 4-game losing streak last week, but they bounced back, take the final 2 games against Tampa Bay, over the weekend. They clinch a playoff spot with that, and thus they have still not been swept in any series going back to May of last season. I know the AL East pennant still very much up for grabs. Baltimore now back 2 games in front of Tampa Bay thanks to the win Saturday and Sunday. But I do have a little bit of concern that there could be a Monday hangover, so to speak, after clinching the playoff spot yesterday. I would have fewer concerns if John Means wasn't on the mound, but Means is on the mound, and this is just his second start of 2023. The first was 6 days ago, gives up 3 runs and 5 hits against the Cardinals. This not a particularly great matchup for Means because the Astros line up in the second half, number 1 against lefties, with a 379 WOBA and a 145 WRC+. And it looks like the public's betting this game like it's already over, Dan. The Orioles are heavy underdogs against Justin Verlander and company. WagerTalk.com odds screen showed a big line move the Astros' way. But I still think Baltimore could put up a decent number of runs here because since coming back to Houston, Verlander has allowed at least 5 runs in 3 of his 8 starts. Includes his last time out, which was against who? The aforementioned A's, who don't exactly have a strong lineup. Over his last 3 starts, Verlander's allowed 9 home runs. So he's had a problem with the long ball. In summary, Baltimore comes in averaging 5.5 runs per game on the road. You got Verlander struggling recently, Means being a big question mark. I think if you play this one, you got to lean over, Dan.
How are you going to be betting this one? Bryan Power says look towards the overs in the O's and the Astros. Hop below in the comments and let us know if you're attacking this one or if you have another game that you're going to be eyeing. As you heard at the top, Drew Martin also with us. He's fresh off of hosting one of the hottest shows at WagerTalk TV. That is the Opening Line Report with him and Teddy Covers. So when you're done here with First Pitch, get ready to bet the NFL Week 3. But we have stuff we got to get into here. Let's talk Mets and the Fish. And I'm looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen here. Looks like the Mets have seen a little bit of money since the opener on this one. Total still sitting at 8.5, but down from the opener of minus 165 on the money line are the Miami Marlins. How are you looking to bet this one, Drew?
You know, Dan, I was looking to get on my my Miami Marlins here on the Fish at home. I thought the price was a little bit too rich, though, a little bit too expensive. That's what kept it off the client card. But wanted to break it down on the show. We're going up against the Mets here. They've lost 2 or 3 to Cincinnati, and they have, excuse me, Mets fans, get at me in the comments section. Trig, BP, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but the kid's name on the hill, Butto, I believe I'm pronouncing that somewhat correctly, Butto, kind of a AAA guy, AAA Syracuse. He's taken over Carlos Carrasco's spot in the Mets rotation. They're going to give him another round through. And look, I mean, the Mets are down over 20 units on the season, guys. They're 30-44 on the road, heading down to South Florida and going up against a hot Miami team. They won 3 straight, sweeping the best team in baseball in the Atlanta Braves, all as dogs. So if you were betting them over the weekend, you made 4 units in just 3 games. 43-32 at home. You want to be betting on the Marlins at home, and they got a bullpen edge in this one. Their starter Cabrera on the hill. He hasn't given up more than 3 earned runs in any start since June. All of that lining up here, Dan. I want to be on the fish, fade the Mets. Just a little bit too pricey to make the client card for me.
I like the breakdown from a man, Drew Martin, and he's got 2 best bets up on $9 Monday. That's right, it's $9 Monday, folks. If you've never tried out any of our cappers before, this is the time to check them out. Just $9 gets you their best bets today. And before you go grab that, throw us a like and hit that subscribe button. Don't miss any of the great shows here, and give the guys a like just for a little thanks for the free winners that they're giving you here on the show. And while Drew was breaking that down, hop below in the comments if you noticed a little "Where's Waldo" moment on the graphic beside Drew there. That's all I'm saying. I want to see if the chat was able to pick up on it. Hop below in the comments and let us know. All right, Trig, you're going to get the final big game breakdown of the day here before we swing it around, get some best bets for the folks. It's all about the dogs for you today, and we'll start off with the Twins and the Reds. No introduction needed. You are one of the guys who loves finding potential good spots to be playing the run line on these dogs. Why do you think this is one of them?
Well, first, I think Drew nailed the pronunciation, and I should know this because I've gone to a handful of Syracuse Mets games. I live right, 25 minutes from the stadium. I've seen him pitch a couple times this year. I think he got the pronunciation right. As far as this game and the underdogs, and I guess, let me just talk about. I think this is going to be the theme of this show. BP already kind of brought it up in his breakdown. I'm going to bring it up here, and then again in best bets, but I am going to look at the dogs these last couple weeks, but specifically, I'm going to look to play against teams that are top teams, but that have very little to play for. And I think the Twins sort of fall into this category here. And I'll explain what I mean and ultimately why I'm going to be on the Reds for a 4% client play tonight. So the Minnesota Twins, this just feels like an anticlimactic spot for them. They come off of a big series, winning 3 of 4 against the White Sox, but also, Dan, the 3 of 4 against the White Sox pretty much put the nail in the coffin for the Guardians this weekend. It's going to be almost impossible for the Guardians to now sort of like rattle off wins the rest of the year and win the AL Central. I think it's safe to say that the Twins and their 7-game lead have wrapped up that division. Ahead of the Twins, they can't really catch the next team, right? The next team for them would be the AL, whoever ends up winning the AL West. Almost impossible for the Twins to catch them. So these last 2 weeks, pretty much meaningless for the Twins. That might not come into play at home, but it could come into play on the road where they're 36 and 39 and 34 and 36, 36 and 39 on the road, and also 34 and 36 against teams with a 500 record. Now, I got to give my guy, Bryan Power, a shout out. He's not going to cash this ticket, but he was 1,000% right to jump in with the Cincinnati Reds when he did. This team ended up being much better than I thought they were going to be down the stretch. And the Reds are right in the mix for a playoff spot. They've won 5 of their last 7. They didn't play particularly good ball yesterday, but collectively over the past week or two, they've played like a team deserving of being in the mix in that NL wildcard race. And, I think they're going to come into this game with that same type of motivation, right in the mix for a playoff spot. The Twins, again, I talked about this being anticlimactic. I talked about them not being great on the road. Their manager, Rocco Baldelli, is not going to be with the team. He's, expecting his wife to give birth, so he's away from the team. All things that just tell me that the Twins really could come out flat here. Joe Ryan's going to get the start for them. He's fantastic, but he's really labored in his last 2 starts. I actually backed the Twins last week, got a win with Ryan on the mound in their game against the Rays, but he really struggled to get through 5 innings, through 102 pitches. If you go back to his previous start, same thing, just laboring out there. And I don't think they're even going to let him do that. There's absolutely no reason the Twins would risk a guy like Ryan running him out there for another 100-pitch outing. So I think you're going to get something like 80 to 90 pitches here, get in, get out, and then they'll just live with whoever, whoever they've got out of the bullpen. It could actually be Dallas Keuchel, is what I'm reading, that they may go with Keuchel in long relief. I welcome that. I don't think that that's the role he really wants to be in. And I think he'd probably, pitch poorly if they do decide to go with him in a relief role. And then the Twins, I've said this all year, their soft spot is the back end of their bullpen. You don't want to get into the Johan Duran, Jacks. Like their front end guys are pretty good. But if you can get the Twins out in the 6th, 7th inning, that's where their sort of weak spot is the back part of that bullpen. So when I add all of that up, I think there's some value on the Reds. I was able to get +1.5 on the Reds in the -120 to -125 range. I believe I locked in at -123. I'm still seeing +1.5 Reds -125 just about everywhere. This Reds team plays a lot of close games. They obviously need this one. The Twins really don't. So I think there's a lot of value there. Connor Phillips making his 3rd big league start. The numbers aren't great, but he was consistent at the minor league level. The Twins haven't seen him. When you just the sum of all the parts here tells me that that there is some value here. So I went ahead and locked in the +1.5 Reds -123 as a 4% client play for Monday night.
Reds on the run line there, and Trey giving away a little client action. I love it, guys. I absolutely love it. That's our big game breakdowns. What game are you eyeing on the board as something you're either betting or you're just excited to tune in and check out? Let us know in the comments below. And we got best bets coming your way. It's funny, at the top of the show, I was mentioning don't forget about betting on baseball when football's in full swing. And then Bryan Power has to start off 7-1 in the NFL and be like, yeah, but you also should be betting football. Bryan Power, you can use code POWER3, get 3 days for just $55 and an all sports run, as we were mentioning. That includes NFL 14-5 on that all sports run. Terrific stuff out of you, BP. It's ever since, we started doing shows together. You've just been hot, insanely hot. I'm not going to take any credit for it, but I'm just saying. All right, Mariners and the A's, Bri. This one is really big for the Mariners. I mean, they're looking to leapfrog the Rangers, potentially leapfrog the Blue Jays. It's all about that wild card race. And thankfully for them, they get to play Oakland. But as we mentioned earlier, you shouldn't just be chalking up wins right away because, the Astros learned that the hard way. Are we chalking this one up, though? Are we laying it? How are we betting this one?
Yeah, we will. We'll get to that in a second. But first, Dan, thank you very much because you handled the first 2 lines of my notes there. I don't have to get into all the administrative stuff about the good start in the NFL and everything. Thank you very much. It's well appreciated. What the the Mariners would appreciate here is a win because they've dropped 7 of 9, including all 3 games at home over the weekend against the Dodgers. But fortunately for them, it is a major drop in class, obviously going against the A's. Seattle 9-1 head-to-head in the season series. It was a 3-game sweep in their lone previous visit to Oakland, which was all the way back in May. It's crazy with the way the schedule is now this year that some of these division rivals haven't played since April or May. And Oakland is happy about that because they've been outscored 50-20 in those 10 games. And you go back to the start of 2021, Seattle's taken 35 of 48 meetings. I think this one quickly turns into a blowout. And Seattle, because of that aforementioned losing streak, guys, should be really motivated. You look at the AL playoff picture. They're now 1 game back of division rival Texas, 1.5 games back of Toronto in the race for those final 2 wild card spots. So there should be no letting their guard down. And you obviously don't need me up here talking for 2 minutes to tell you how bad Oakland's been this year. Historically awful, -316 run differential. Last 4 games, all losses. They've been outscored 29. San Diego at home over the weekend. Bullpen gets rocked on Sunday, gives up 10 runs in 6 innings. So Oakland, terrible form. Seattle, despite the getting swept by the Dodgers, who are obviously a great team, the bullpen's in relatively good shape. And I like Bryan Wu, who threw 6 shutout innings, 3-hit ball against Oakland not too long ago, August 28th to be exact. He was working on extended rest. His last time out, Wu didn't allow any runs that time either. Had 5, and he's got 5 days off coming into tonight. So I don't see Oakland's bats doing much. And JP Sears is the starter for Oakland. Yeah, their team's 3-0 his last 3 starts, but he's already way exceeded a career high in innings pitched. He's only struck out 9 of the last 70 batters he's faced. Mariners against lefties, 5th in WOBA in the second half of the season, 134 WRC plus. They are a clear play tonight. Now, of course, we can't play the money line. So what are we going to do? 4% client play, Seattle -1.5. We're guaranteed 9 at bats. That is Monday's best bet.
Man, if you ever needed more of a reason to check these guys out on $9 Monday, they're just giving away client plays. Give them a thanks by, getting some discounted plays for them over at the site. And before you do that, make sure you hit that like button. These guys putting in the man hours, getting you ready to bet, whether it's MLB, whether it's NFL, whether it's college football. I see these guys on panels around the clock. So give them a like and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss when they're live here on the shows, getting you in front of a lot of these line moves. Drew Martin, we were talking about how hot our guy Bryan Power is on the gridiron. Just an 80% run for you going back to the regular season in NFL. And as we mentioned, don't forget MLB either, 40 and 30 since June, my man Drew Martin. So $9 Monday is a great day for folks. A little MLB and NFL you can get from my man Drew. But before that, Drew, let's talk a little Brewers and Cards. We always joke about Wainwright. Like, is this guy just going to play until we're all dead? He might outlast us all at this point. He's looking for his 200th career victory. You think that could get spoiled here as the Cards are hosting the Brewers?
Dan, I do think it will get spoiled here. And it is, like you correctly teed up here, fade Adam Wainwright night in St. Louis. Like BP just talked about, laying the run line, we get the away team guaranteed 9 at-bats. And I say fade Adam Wainwright night. He's carrying just short of an 8 ERA on the season into tonight's game. He's going up against the first place Milwaukee Brewer bats. This is a last place St. Louis Cardinals team. So we get the first place team, last place team, 18 games separating them. And we could get on the -1.5, -103. It has been bumped up to about -110. I released that last night. Free picks page at WagerTalk.com if you want the detailed written analysis. Freddie Peralta up against Wainwright here. He's getting the start for Milwaukee, and he's been great. The Dominican hurler, he has a 2.01 ERA, 2.03 FIP since late July here. So since the middle of summer, he's put together a heck of a run in his last few starts here. I like betting on hot pitchers. And another thing here, we get the big pitching edge, not only starting pitching, but by my bullpen ratings, Dan, we get a top 5 bullpen in the Brewers and a bottom 5 bullpen in the Cardinals. So really, first inning to ninth inning, I think we get the big pitching edge. Again, first place, last place here, 18 games separating them. Lay the 1.5. It's just -165, -170. It's a little bit too expensive. And because we get the full 9 at bats here, Dan, I'm going to lay the run line with the Brewers. Give me the Brew Crew tonight, Dan.
Riding with the Brew Crew as I'm riding with the Hustle Crew here. Drew Martin, Adam Trigger, and Bryan Power. All right, Trig, you'll get the final best bet here for the folks. And I guess this is just run line day here. These guys like laying it. You like taking it. Let's talk the nightcap in Tigers and Dodgers. It's going to be Rodriguez on the mound for Detroit, kind of like the pitcher that got away here as the Dodgers are going with Lynn. How are you looking to bet this one, Trig?
Yeah, well, first, I do have a play tonight, NFL. I'm off to a pretty good NFL start as well, 10-5, and I've got to play 4% around $9 Monday. I gave you the 4% around the Reds plus 1.5, which is a dog I like to at least cover the run line, which goes before this one. I may add this one as well. I haven't really. I kind of want to see lineups first, and before I make the decision for 1 and 2. This one's a little bit more expensive, so I want to see if this gets bet down into a range where I kind of prefer to have the juice. But I do think the Tigers are a solid bet on the run line tonight. So the Dodgers are another one of these teams. Brian talked about it in his Mariners breakdown. They sweep the Mariners, take care of business this weekend, and now they're sort of in this this mode where they've gotten the NL West completely wrapped up. They're not going to catch the Braves, so it's pretty much just play out the string for the Dodgers until the playoffs. And they're gonna be a tough team to bet against regardless. We saw them rest players yesterday, and even in spite of that, they still won easily. But it's like at some point to lay -1.5 on a game in and game out basis, they're going to have a hard time covering those big numbers, and I think that could be the case here. The Tigers get to go against Lance Lynn, someone they've seen a ton. Now, Lynn does have good career numbers against Detroit, but I'm still willing to take my chances opposing Lance Lynn. He's given up 41 home runs this year. It's the 10th most all time in a single season. I mean, he's someone that even with the fact that he's had some success against Detroit, I'll still take the exposure Detroit has had against him to sort of play out over his career-long success as a sort of a buy sign for the Tigers here. Another thing I like, and another reason I'm waiting to see lineups, is I think Miguel Cabrera will be in the lineup tonight. Obviously Cabrera is not the same guy he's been his whole career. Getting toward the end of his career, doesn't play every day, but when he does, I think he does add to that Tigers lineup right now. He's hitting 361 in September. And I think, I want to make sure he's in there before backing the Tigers because I think he would add a big element to the Tigers lineup for this game. Eduardo Rodriguez gets the ball for the Tigers. This guy a month ago could have gotten traded maybe a month or two ago, could have gotten traded to the Dodgers to join their team for the postseason race. He blocked that trade. And that tells me that, what's going on in Detroit is positive. He talked about wanting to stay there, be part of that team. Family likes it there. But specifically, I think the Tigers are building to something. I think the vibes are good in Detroit. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, but they're 10-5 in September. And I really think this team, has prioritized a strong finish, and they might be a team to keep an eye on for next year. So I do like the Tigers plus 1.5 here. This is a scenario where you're going to get the run line with the road team, and you do get that extra at bat. But the Tigers are just a team that they're playing good ball right now. I think there's no reason to think that this team doesn't continue to play hard throughout the rest of the season. And here, I wouldn't be surprised if this is an exhale spot for the Dodgers. They come off the sweep. There's not much to play for. Maybe they go through the motions. And guys, it's hard to win Major League Baseball games as it is. If there's a little bit of going through the motions, it's even harder to cover a minus 1.5, especially at home when you have to do it in 8 at bats. So my best bet for the show will be Tigers plus 1.5. I have not added this one to the client card yet, but I might. And obviously earlier I did talk about Reds plus 1.5, which I did make a client play just before we got on the show. So Tigers and Reds are the two I really like tonight. I think they both have a great chance to win outright, and you're getting great value on the plus 1.5.
Tigers, Brewers, and M's. Oh my, that's the best bets for the guys there. You can hop below in the comments. It's corny. I had to do it, guys. When I saw that there were Tigers and Brewers and the alliteration was possible, I had to do it. That's Drew Martin, Adam Trigger, and Bryan Power. That's their best bets, and you can hop below in the comments and let us know yours. And after you're done commenting, you don't have to go anywhere to get all the info you need to bet all the sports you love, because it is only a click away, only here on WagerTalk TV.